Good morning. Happy brunch with Bree if it's brunch where you're at. I just had a nice warm bowl of oatmeal with some fresh fruit because I got a little too cold yesterday. I went paddleboarding at Grand Mesa in their lakes, and it was about 55 degrees Fahrenheit up there, and I may have fallen in the water once. So didn't realize how cold I was till I got home and started shivering. And it's overcast this morning, and with a little humidity, it's a little chilly. So I am in a sweater in August. It's crazy. But I wanted a nice warm breakfast this morning, and I felt like that was my healthiest option to do so. I wanted to jump on and just get your guys' opinions. And, I want to know what comes to mind when you hear about the services I provide, the support of helping end-of-life individuals and families with end-of-life challenges, supporting people through spiritual transitions and transformations, and of course, just overall chronic illness support and grief. What does that elicit in your responses versus, how does the term death doula sound? Does it kind of put you off? Are you a little, don't really like talking about death, and death is, this ominous, dark, scary thing, and by me being a death doula, are you kind of put off by that, or do you prefer the term end-of-life doula? There's some, people, especially my Canadian friends, prefer to go with end-of-life doula. And there's some here in the US as well, but, a lot of people like the softer term end-of-life doula. And then my spiritual doula, I've had a post up today about, what does that mean? It's basically like a spiritual coach or a guide. I'm helping with the birth into your authentic spiritual self, which is kind of where that doula comes in. And I just wanted to hop on and get your opinions and, what resonates with you, what doesn't, what is kind of off-putting. And, come across people who absolutely love the term death doula and love what I'm doing. And other people are like, oh my gosh, you're a death doula? Don't take me to the grave. And I tell them I'm not their pilot, but, I could be a travel agent and assist them and make them comfortable on their way there. But I'm not going to take them to the grave. So I just want to get some people's opinions and, kind of what you think when you see, different types of support I provide. I also provide, in that spiritual dueling, spiritual coaching is a space for other people in these awakenings, whether it comes from a near-death experience that they're trying to process, out of body, new metaphysical gifts that, are coming up. The frequency of our earth is changing, and with that, so are our bodies. We're all energy and we're all frequency. So when a big thing that we live on, that changes, it changes our frequency too. Many people think that, we're hopefully in the stage of ascension and awakening, but that means, there's a lot of people struggling with their gifts and exploring what that means and what that looks like for them. But also on the other hand, there's a lot of, soul contracts that are being broken, or a lot of people searching for the soul purpose of pain and grief and loss and trauma they've experienced. And, I love discussing that with them as well. So, anything from the reason why we experience what we experience to, all things end of life on a holistic support. Of course, I'm not a medical professional, and I'm not an attorney. So outside of that, I can really help with what I consider the autonomy over the self and carrying on your legacy, really figuring out ways to deal with grief and loss, and that blends into chronic illness. With chronic illness, a lot of people experience loss of the life they once had, the loss of the life they thought they would have, loss of dreams, loss of jobs, loss of family. So grief is beyond just the actual physical death. Another question I have about my term death doula. I think it is hilarious because in my near-death experience, monks laughed at me when I asked if I was dead. And they laughed because there is no such thing as death. And that's kind of who I am. I'm silly. I love these play on words and these, deep questions and these deep thoughts and exploring what our words and our reality really mean. So I absolutely love calling myself a death doula because there's no such thing as death, and I just help with that transition between this physical 3D realm and where your soul goes to next. But if you were to jump into, let's say you want to start working with end of life people or chronic illness or grief, and that you're really called to do that, what would you call yourself? I would love to know what you would call yourself. When I first got into this, I looked at a few different terms, death doula, end of life doula. There was one that was absolutely perfect, but I had to look up what it meant in the dictionary, and it was kind of not a common word at all. And I was like, okay, I've already have to explain what a death or end of life doula is. There's no way anyone's gonna know what this particular doula or term means. But it was beautiful. It was a facilitator of transitioning souls. This was a few years ago, but it was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it to a core, but I was like, I've already got to tell people what I do and how I help. I don't really want to have to explain what this word means and then explain what I do. Where I feel like a death doula is pretty explanatory. If you know what a birth doula is, helps lives transition into the world. Death doula helps transition lives out of the world. I also call myself a midwife to the afterlife. So yeah, what are your thoughts? Would you, if what part of that is off-putting, if anything? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I'm definitely not changing my title because I feel like it is truly authentically me, and I love erasing the fear of death and dying because it's only a transition, and of course it's very painful for those who are left here because we don't know where they're at necessarily. Even with the abilities of psychics and other modalities of talking to the people of transition, we still aren't sure where they are. So it's mostly hard for us. Hi, Amber. Do you have any questions for me about death doula? You're Tara's friend in high school. Maybe ringing a bell. I've had some brain surgery since then, and my memory isn't too awesome. Did I ever meet you, Miss Amber? Yeah. I am Tara's sister, and she is my best friend. I'm about 2 years older than her, and okay, we have not met. I didn't think so, but like I said, my memory, especially from school, is pretty old. Tara is my sister and my best friend, and one day, hopefully, she'll join me in this death doula journey. She's got a master's in psychology. She's also volunteered in hospice. She's taken my becoming a death doula training course, so I would really love for her to partner with me on that. Maybe she has an idea of what she would want to call herself, but she's not on right now. So, yeah, just, I guess, what ignites your soul about, this work? Is it, the fact that we can help with legacy projects, we can support with grief and bereavement? Is it the fact that we are also in active dying care? That is, what hospice is good for. But let's say you don't have hospice, or their team isn't meeting your needs, or they're more of a medical support. They do have volunteers that come in and provide some of the same services we do, for the most part. And so there's the active dying support. Is it help with the spirituality part that you're interested in? I added the spiritual doula on to the death doula because turns out all of my death doula clients, at least towards the end of life. I mean, I'm not talking about the young ones who have advanced directives and need those filled out, or need to fill out their advanced directives and have those questions. But it's mostly the people who are elderly and facing the end of their life that they become very spiritually reflective. And they really want that help in understanding where their beliefs lay, where their faith lays. Was it the religion they grew up in? Was it they'd fallen apart from religion, they came back? Or do they have a completely different understanding? And my work specifically is being a mirror. So I work with people of all types of religion, faith, backgrounds. That's really my passion, is to be open and non-judgmental and non-biased, and just be a mirror so that they can work through that. But sometimes they just need that person to sit and listen and, maybe play devil's advocate, or just reflect and paraphrase things back. So if you just active listen and paraphrase things, a lot of people come to spiritual clarity through themselves. So I just help empower that situation. Amber, I will totally tell her you said hi. Are you in Greeley still? Because I am not. So the spiritual aspect is so beautiful and so important. It also really leads into the chronic illness that I help with. Grief, chronic illness, dying. The spiritual part is absolutely huge and so important, because people are healing themselves from chronic illness when they find their spirituality, and if they find God, and if that's what they call it, or find their own divine power within, and they really start actually being able to heal chronic illness, and they start to be able to heal from, maybe not heal from grief necessarily, but learn to live with it in a more graceful manner. So all of it is really centered around our soul, and whether that is you're going to become just a soul, you're going to leave your physical body through death and dying, to become a soul, whether you're trying to heal from chronic illness. A lot of that needs to happen on an internal level first before other illnesses can heal on the outside. Grief, if you find yourself within, that usually also really promotes a more resilient strength and ways to process grief and grieving. Just everything is beautifully mixed together in a beautiful web. And I love the word web, and I feel like this world is a web, and we're all webs. We're webs of energy, all intertwined together, and it's absolutely beautiful when you recognize that. It's also why grief is so hard, because it feels like part of that web is cut and broken, but we can mend it and keep going. Amber, I think Tara's boyfriend is in Fort Collins right now. So, are you friends with her on Facebook? Yeah, I am on the other side of the mountains, so I'm only about 7 hours away from Fort Collins. It's quite a ways. Oh, thanks, Amber. So if there's any other questions or thoughts, whether you drop them in the comments now or you drop them um, drop them post video, like if it's not live, it's just a recording. I'll come back and I'll answer them. I'm just so curious what everyone thinks. And, if anything is really off-putting, like the fact I call myself a death doula, how many of you are turned off by that? And that doesn't mean I'm changing. I just, I'm really curious, and the question has come up from a friend of mine, and I just wanted to explore it, especially because I didn't have any solid plans for brunch with Bree today, and I'm about to be very, very busy the end of this month all the way through September. So I don't know if I'm going to have steady brunch with Breeze, especially as I changed how I'm doing them. They're no longer just in my group. They're on my profile, which is where you can see me, right where you're seeing me right now. I just wanted to reach a bigger audience and help more people. And I didn't, some people just don't want to join my group, which is fine. It's free. And I just want to help more people. So I will be trying to do it more consistently here. And the last time I did it, no one could see me. No one could get on, didn't save or anything. So it was a hot, beautiful disaster. So we're trying, always learning, always adapting. Thanks, Matt. I will definitely have a great trip. It's been in the works for a long time. My heart is to travel the world and help the world. I would love to be a death doula all around the world and a spiritual doula. Maybe one day, when my business really is booming, I would absolutely love to host retreats around the world. But Spain is very dear to me. I definitely feel my Basque Spanish roots, and I'm excited to go and explore Europe for the first time. I'm healthy enough to do so. Before my own healing, I could not sit for a long time. I mean, it was too painful. So these long flights were just pretty rough, and I just had no desire to attempt the flight, even though I really wanted to, see the world. Also, all my money has always gone to healthcare, medical. I would pay off my deductible every year very quickly because it was always something going on. And these last couple of years, I haven't had to do that. So putting that towards my bucket list trip, one of many. And Tara is coming with me, and I'm so excited. Best friend and sister and support, and she's hopefully as excited as I am for Spain. It'll be healing and exciting, and I haven't taken a real vacation in a really, really long time. So glad we planned it a year ago, because right now I'd feel guilty about going, but because we planned it and paid for it a year ago, we just gotta go. We gotta go and enjoy ourselves. Yes, I'm so glad you're super excited, Tara. Tara, now that you're on, Amber was saying hello. Amber Burns from school. Is it high school? Yeah, high school. She wanted to say hi. She said she had to go though, so she just wanted to say hi. But I have some questions for you if you are available. Waiting, pondering. I was talking about you earlier this video.
All right.
Hi. Surprise! Thanks for joining me.
Yeah. I don't look too chatty here.
No, you look cute. So I was talking a little bit about how, the term death doula might be off-putting to some people, and some people call themselves end-of-life doula. I also added spiritual doula and kind of explained what I do and trying to get some thoughts on, just terminology and, different ways to introduce myself. There might be, there's sometimes confusion when I say doula. They think I'm a birth doula, and I just say I'm a midwife to the afterlife. But I explained how you have a master's in psychology, have also volunteered in hospice. You've taken my death doula training courses, and I hope that one day you'll join me on this adventure. But what would you call yourself?
Like currently, or if I joined you in this
If
fun
you joined,
escapade?
if you joined me in this career
I
endeavor.
I feel like in some ways, it's not exact, but sometimes I compare chaplains to what you do as well, in the sense that a chaplain comes in, they're giving, they're providing kind of a spiritual-esque resource, but they're not coming in with their own biases. They're letting uh, the needs of their clients kind of dictate what they're going to do and talk about. And I mean, you do that. Part of the death doula business is kind of doing that side of things as well, is that like you're not coming in with your own like goals in mind necessarily. You're coming in as somebody that is going to help your clients' goals along and the trajectory that they would like. And it's like a chaplain. You say midlife for the afterlife, and I kind of think chaplain for the afterlife in the sense that I think that's an aspect of it. Of course, you do some other like more physical things than just talking about the religious side of things. But that was just another thing I was thinking of recently, was that there's a lot of similarities between those two roles that chaplains do and death doulas do.
Yeah,
And
I think, don't you have to go to school specifically to become a chaplain?
yeah, that is its own thing for sure. And there's some things that, of course, you can't do as a death doula per se, and unless you go and do the school for the chaplain piece. But um, even in hospice, when you volunteer, that's kind of the mode of the conversation, is that you're supposed to kind of sit back and listen and not try to put a lot of yourself onto that person, and instead just be there as kind of a placeholder for space in case that individual feels they need something. And so as far as like a condensed descriptor of what it is, I mean, I do love the midlife to the afterlife, because you really are a guide. Or like what's the thing you have on the on your cell phone? Like I'm gonna um your voicemail.
Oh, yeah, it's been a while since
It,
I've updated it.
it's like a flight attendant,
Yeah, travel agent or
travel agent.
or not agent. Oh, what are they called? Um, no, it's the flight attendant. Flight attendant.
Attendant. Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I like that description the most. I've even had like talking about spiritual stuff. I've been in a flying train between worlds in a dream, and this is kind of off the cuff weirdness, but I had like a true angelic guide on the train, and she's like, "Yeah, we're gonna shift you into your next piece of life here," was the dream. And I kind of feel like that's what you do,
Hmm.
or you help with anyways, is you're basically taking one person from one destination to another and helping them like through that process. So like a flight attendant, they tell you how to um,
Safety and
they
snacks.
guide to your seats, they make sure that you're comfortable. Um, so it's like a flight attendant to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you call yourself?
What would call myself. I like travel guide, like death guide
Death
or
guide.
something like that.
Oh.
Which doesn't probably sound that great to people either,
Yeah.
people that are weird about death. So maybe a transitional guide.
Oh, transitional guide.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
removing the word death.
Yeah.
I think usually, I mean, when people talk about those that have died, a lot of the time we say they've passed away because we don't like to say death itself.
Right.
So I think when you remove the word death, but you imply it, people have a little bit easier time accepting what's being talked about and discussed. So,
Yeah, so something interesting that's come up for me is, people who say that they don't want to talk about death or dying or it's too hard, and yet they will comment on my post about death and dying. They're like, I don't want to talk about it, and then they continue to talk about it. So I think we're breaking free from the stigma of death,
yeah.
and it's really fun to see because you don't have to comment on any post.
No.
And it's like, oh, I can't talk about it. And then they proceed to talk about it. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting or
Well,
I've
and
only had one.
you're doing it in the frame of mind of like we're on the internet and people are a little bit more comfortable
Right.
seeing something when their face isn't right in front of somebody else's face. So it makes sense that even they might still be uncomfortable with the conversation of death, but because of the situation that they're or the placeholder that you're providing them digitally, they're actually getting to have that conversation.
Yeah. And I think there's only been a couple people who have, reacted in a non-positive light. That wasn't just really, usually it's visceral responses of like, oh my gosh, we need you. Where were you 2 years ago when I lost so and so? Oh, I need you right now. I'm grieving. Oh, I want you to be my death doula. I want you to help me with end of life plans. There's been just one guy who was like, death doula? I don't want you to kill me. That's when I explain I'm not the pilot. I'm just the um, flight attendant. I'll make you comfortable and I'll help get you there. I'm not going to take you there. I'll help you along the way.
Well, that's the other thing is the death doula doesn't necessarily have to deal with someone in the process of dying. It could be years and years before that, you know,
Yeah. And after.
and after. You know, it's death is a part of the human experience in all facets of the human experience, really. Like, I mean, we lose family pets at different ages and different moments in our life. We have to kind of come up with a game plan. That's why we have 401ks, is because we're like, well, eventually we're going to need to retire and then have the money to survive until we die,
Yep. And
basically, is what
life
that's
insurance
for.
life insurance is there so that when you do die, your family doesn't have to go in debt trying to take care of, whatever funeral burial plans you have.
Yeah.
And we plan for babies. I mean, not all the time. There's a lot of people who don't plan for babies, but a lot of people do, or they try. You start a family or, whether that's on accident or on purpose, but we have, baby showers and gender reveal parties and really excited. We get so excited about the birth of a child, and then I feel like people at the end of life, regardless of your age, are really neglected. So, um,
Well, like our family, just kind of to put a little side point in, is we've actually been a pretty comfortable family talking about death, and that's why I have this clock right here. Because that was
specifically because and that
Grandma and Grandpa, we talked about what each of us grandchildren would like from them when they passed away, despite, we never wanted them to go. But because we would have those conversations, I was able to express the one item I've always wanted from their house. The one thing that if I couldn't have anything else of theirs, that's what I wanted. And it was that clock. And there's There's so many things about that clock that just, the sound of it reminds me of grandma and grandpa. I can't get the cuckoo part to work right now, and I'm scared to death to try to fix it. So I haven't even tried to fix it. But, we had, I remember talking to grandma and grandpa when they asked us, okay, when we're gone, what would you like? And um,
I said all his firearms, and he didn't agree.
oh no, really?
Yeah,
I've, I've got Grandpa's Winchester 22.
I've got his
Actually,
I've got
guy,
his little I've got his little Beretta, but I wanted them all.
you can't have them all, Bree.
Yeah, so I settled for his sailboat.
Yeah, that's true. And Tisney's been such a great boat for the family, honestly, just in general.
Yeah,
But we had those conversations. I mean, the reason why Grandpa, when he passed away, why it was so much smoother than when Grandma passed away for mom and Uncle
all of
John.
us.
Yeah, to move through the legality side of things.
Mhm.
Like, of course, there was the grieving process, but there's all the legality you have to jump through
Yeah,
afterward. Because they had so many things set, it was a lot smoother than what it would have been. And there was still hiccups. So
yeah.
it's like,
For reference, they had all of their end of life plans, their estate all planned. They even had a worldwide cremation service that if they were abroad because they love to travel and something happened to them, they could be cremated and sent back to the US. So they really had everything planned to the T. So it went very, very smoothly. Where I've seen so many people that either don't have advance directives and their families have no idea what they want, and they really makes it really hard if they're in an incapacitated state and they've got to make those decisions of life support or not life support for how long, all this stuff. I've done a few videos.
the family, we've discussed openly, okay, I want this and I want this. And so we kind of have a good idea of what each other wants. But not only that, when you're going through your grieving process, the more you have to deal with, the less you can actually hold your own space to grieve. So that's
Right.
another important piece of the pie is, yeah, so
If you have,
sometimes,
yeah, if you have everything in order when you're gone, it's really a huge blessing and benefit for your loved ones. So you
yeah,
might not care because you'll be gone, but if you if you care about your loved ones in any capacity, plan for them. You're not necessarily planning for yourself. Kind of are, you can have your wishes, but there's a lot of people who say, I don't care what happens, I'll be dead or I'll be incapacitated, I don't care. Well, it's not just about you. um, it is, but it isn't. Like,
right.
please plan for your family and your loved ones and
Yeah.
your pets. There's been a lot of times where people will write down what they want, where they want their kids to go, or have these guardians for kids, but the pets often get forgotten. And yeah, they don't live as long as your kids, hopefully. Hopefully your kids live longer.
I've got
But
my reptiles that live 30
yeah,
years, so sometimes
so
you should have a plan.
yeah, you should. Well, and even, dogs live, 8 to 16 years. Cats can live 20 some years. Just have a plan. And that's why it's also important to update your advance directives and your estate plans and whatever you have written, or if you don't have anything written, start having a plan and update that with major life changes, marriages, divorces, moving, new investments, selling investments, new animals, new toy, whatever, major life things that you want taken care of.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be every single little change in your life, but these big changes that you want taken care of. It's once you have everything written down, it's pretty easy to update it. Unless you are my parents and wait for, 15 years where every single thing changes. And you have to
Yeah.
completely redo it. So it's easier to update it along the way.
Yeah, and dad are special individuals.
Well, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video before Tara hopped on, I'm sure you could see why she would be an amazing asset to the end of life team. And one day we'll bring her on, and she'll be hopefully doulaing with me and helping people in all these spaces as well. But I'm sure you can tell just from this brief interaction when I drew her on, asked her to come on out of the blue. She had no warning. So thank you for your um, flexibility, adaptability, impulsivity to
Oh
deal
my
with
God.
my
That's the story of my life with you, Brie. The shenanigans
shenanigans.
of you.
Yeah.
So no worries.
Well, I really appreciate you hopping on without a notice, and this has been a lovely conversation. Can't wait to see what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you want to support my cause so that I can hire Tara in the future, there is a link to my current fundraiser to help me with this keeping the business alive while I figure out some new health issues. But that should be somewhere on screen. And it's also on my profile as
Yeah,
well.
I mean,
So help me, help others, help me help others so Tara can eventually come help me help others.
well, and it's just beautiful how you've set up your business and how hard you work daily on the daily. There's a lot of background things that Bree's doing that nobody ever gets to see except for maybe some family members who she kind of sends it our way to verify things look good and things read well and make sense. So it would just be amazing to see this business thrive the way I really see it thriving in the future. So,
I saw it thriving in the future back when we booked our trip to Spain. I was positive everything would be flowing and booming, but it's all right.
we got dinged a little bit with the health
Yeah.
and stuff. You've
I,
gotten some dings.
yeah, I got a big old detour that took me the long way. So we'll get there, but I appreciate any help in the meantime, whether that's thoughts, prayers, vibes, money, all of that. So thank you, and I plan on seeing you all next week. And if you have any requests for any lives, please let me know. I love to do them.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Bye.
Bye. I don't know how to get out of this.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Let me know if any topics or any questions come up that I could do a live on. Love answering questions live. I love having communication. I love being open and transparent. Ask me anything. If you haven't seen that series, it's both on my Facebook Reels as well as my YouTube, and it's really just the fun things I get asked as a death doula. And that's been going on for a couple weeks now, and it will continue for another month or so. So if you have any questions, let me know and I can add it to that series. Check it out, and I will see you later.